Greetings friends, and welcome to Dreams version 2.35/6. So friends, I'm going to go over some of the new features, and then I'm also going to do like a little bit of a tutorial to show you the new scoping tweaks, which are absolutely awesome friends, and are like real game changers in terms of simplifying logic, and also in terms of like increasing the depth of how far you can go. I'm super excited for this update friends, and you should be too. Whoop whoop whoop. So first of all, I think let's look at the Ancient Dangers A Bat's Tale, which is the new media molecule game that has just been released, and it's super great friends. I haven't actually jumped into it yet, but it's like the production value is crazy. It's like Art's Dream level production value, and it's co-op as well, so definitely get stuck into that friends. I'm super keen to jump in, but I thought I would just make this update video first. We've also got some new imps. So if you go to your imp and then you go to my imp quests, if you go over to not started, you'll see that there are a few new imps that you can get. So for example, these are all of course related to the Ancient Dangers A Bat's Tale sort of dream. So if you complete various sections of it, you will unlock a bunch of new imps, as you can see over here, and I think they're all pretty cute and pretty awesome. So yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah, I think it's these 5. Okay, sweet friends. So yeah, these ones over here: Absolute Adventurer, Treasure Hunter, Heed the Heroes, Making Dungeons, and Herb's Confessions, all of which are related to just completing it, and you know, getting collectibles and so on and so forth. And friends, they've also added in some new trophies. They've added 3 trophies that are all related to the Ancient Dangers A Bat's Tale dream as well. So playing through that dream will give you new imps. It'll also give you new trophies. It's a total vibe. But friends, let's get stuck into dream shaping. So as you can see, the UI has changed. They've added in like slightly smaller like header blocks, so you can see all the new stuff that's going on, the community related business, so on and so forth, which is great because you can, you know, I just think it's a little bit more accessible, a little bit more easy to see what's going on. When you create your own creations, now it used to have its own tab, now it's just a little sort of section over here, but if you click on it, it opens up, it shows you all the classics, Element, Dream, Collection, so on and so forth, but it also has the templates now. So these templates are great friends. They contain like kits which sort of have a whole bunch of assets and stuff that you can use for these games, and it's fabulous friends. It's all like super modular. So for example, the dungeon crawler, you can literally just like copy rooms and, you know, edit them and sort of make them work together, and it's actually like really easy, really straightforward. And I feel like for people who get intimidated by the logic part of dreams, which can be pretty tricky, it's kind of like all the logic is there. It's really modular, so you can literally just copy paste and adjust it to your own needs, change the design of it, copy and paste those things again, and just create like whole entire levels around this really easy to use format. They've also got these new things called play and edit. So if you jump into something like 2D platformer, they've got a play and edit, which is kind of like an interactive tutorial, which is great because there haven't always been like a huge amount of tutorials by but now they've really leaned into it and given us like a whole bunch of really useful tutorials for these templates. We've also got our little kits over here. So for example, there's a bunch of new like assets, which we always love to see. So for example, you've got like the level exit, you've got like a teleporter, you've got checkpoints, you've got like funky different terrain, which is all great for 2D platformers. You've got your character who has their own little sort of brand of logic. You've got enemies, you've got pickups, collectibles, all these sorts of things, like things that'll attack you and hurt you, hazards, you know what I mean? And friends, it's just really awesome. And each of these things has its own little set and kit and all these sorts of doodads. So it's really just a great time, friends. The dream shaping update, just the interface and the new sort of features and kits alone are just enough to make this update fabulous beyond belief. But the cool thing is, there's even more. They've also added in a new feature for curators, friends, which is pretty cool. Now if you have a music collection, you can go into it with L1 and X to view the cover. Then you can go to customize, and then you can go to set audio preview, so you can see which song of the ones that you've got in your collection will be the one that plays when you go over the collection. So by default, I'm not sure if it's random or if it's like the first one you put in or the most recent one you put in, whatever. But now you can be like, okay, cool, I want to make it, you know, this one. And now you'll want to save it, of course, save those changes. And now when you go over it, it'll be that new song that you set it as. So this is specifically for music collections. I thought this was a different feature at first. First I was like, ooh, you can select like, you know, a little clip of your audio and make it with all audio. But no, it's specifically with audio/music collections. I believe this will of course work for like sound effect collections too. But that's a great feature for curators. Okay friends, so what changes actually occur when we're inside a dream? So I'm just going to quickly go into a new element/scene. And here we are in the old Dreamiverse, so nothing too crazy at the moment. The next thing that I want to show you, friends, is the new fonts. So there aren't a huge number of new fonts, but there is one font that is a little bit special. So I'm just going to type in the alphabet quickly. There we go. So I've just got the alphabet in all caps. So that's looking pretty cool. I think like most of the new fonts are kind of like near the end. There's kind of like a torn up looking one. And then we're soon going to see the special font. Okay, sweet friends. So as you can see here, this is font number 87, which is related to the Ancient Dangers kit. So I think they wanted to add in a bunch of new icons into the game. And each of these correlate to a letter in the alphabet. Now, of course, we've got 26 new characters here, but we've also got, these are all the caps letters, we've also got a bunch for lowercase ones. So I'm going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. They don't have up to P. So for example, if I go up to P, we've got a bunch of new characters, but then when it goes up to P, there's no new values. So I'm just going to go up to O. So here we are, friends. We have a bunch of new icons which you can use in your dreams. You can of course change the color of these icons, which I always love to do. So there you are, friends. So you have 26 plus, let me do some maths here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you've got like 41, 40. You've got a bunch of new icons that you can add into your dreams, friends. Now they are sort of Ancient Dangers themed. But they're like a little bit sneaky. Like I was just looking through the fonts, and I was like, all of a sudden you get these funky new boys. So this is great, friends, because for example, you've got a sword icon, and like, you know, whenever you've tried to make like a sword icon in the past, you've had to do like some funky business, but now there's like a great icon here. There's like kind of some cool elemental ones. There's like flame, there's like a plant, there's like all sorts of different shapes, and I think these will we'll be able to use these really well in our dreams, friends. So I love the new fonts, and this one in particular, because it's like a whole set of new icons. Like especially the skull, like you've got a silly skull over here, and then you've got like a more hectic skull over there. So yeah, friends, there are just some really cool new fonts and new icons to add into your dreams. Finally! So friends, before when you wanted to stamp things into your dreams, you would go to the search feature, but it wasn't the best because you'd kind of just have like this single like line that you'd have to endlessly scroll through. But now, friends, they've added in, if you scroll down a bit, this new sort of categorization feature, which is just so cool, because now you can look at sculptures, you can look at animations, contraptions, and if you go into something like that, you'll go into sort of your own creations if you have anything like that. And then it'll look at just a whole bunch of really cool creations that are out there, and just the categorization of it is just so much better, because before you would look for something and you just have to like endlessly scroll through, and it just wasn't the best. But now it's a lot easier to see what's out there. You can see things that are recommended, things that are thumbed up, things that are the newest ones, the trending ones. So it's just a vastly superior like searching system. And of course you've got the media molecule stuff here as well. And it's just a huge improvement, the search feature, because before it was really tricky, but now everything is really out there and just so much more accessible. Hey friends, so now I'm going to show you some of the new scoping tweaks that have been added to a bunch of pieces of logic. So I've got all 8 pieces here. I've got the follower, the look at rotator, the teleporter, the laser scope, the health modifier, the wireless transmitter, the variable modifier, this one is crazy, and of course the exclusive gate. So the scope feature, you can see here, they've all got this new little section. It says scope, and it's got everywhere, here, and not here. And in this video, friends, I'm going to show you how this is immediately applicable for things like health modifiers and variable modifiers. And friends, it's crazy because it makes doing things a lot simpler, but it also adds a whole new level of things that you can do in Dreams. This update, friends, is actually crazy, the amount of stuff that you can do. Basically, if I give you a little bit of a brief description of what scope actually is, it's if we get ourselves a little puppet, for example, and I'll just put them down over here. So that's looking pretty cool. I'll make them a little bit smaller. So when I go into my puppet, if I make it so that I have hide everything else, the scope is basically what is in my puppet at this stage. So for example, if I add in a little cube, and if I go into my scope, the scope, in other words, what is affected by the here part of these various pieces of logic. So everywhere makes it the whole scene. Here makes it so that whatever is in this particular scope. So what is in the scope of my character over here is of course just my character themselves. And I can see that when I go into them and I have hide everything else. If I grab my little cube here and I go, oh, I want an X on my character, it's adding it to the group. And if I go into this, I'll see that the scope now includes my cube over here. So that's pretty much just a bit of a basic description of what scope is and what scope refers to. Of course, think of it as when scope is everywhere, as we can see here. When scope is everywhere, it affects everything in the scene. When scope is here, it is only affecting what is in our particular scope, in other words, this region. And when scope is not here, it is affecting everything that is outside of this region. So everything that is within the scope is sort of protected from the effects of various modifiers and so on and so forth, but everything outside of the scene is fair game. But alrighty, friends, let's go into some more specific examples. Alrighty. Okay, friends, so let's look at the new scoping tweaks for the health modifier. So at the moment, I've got my two characters and I've got a looping animation here, and I want to make it so that my little punch is going to deal damage to my enemy. So of course the way that we do that is we will go into our gadgets, we'll go into movers and output, we'll grab ourselves a health modifier, and then we'll line it up with that position in the punch where, you know, we think it'll make contact with the character. Now what we might do is create like a bit of a hitbox. So we'll go for the health modifier, we'll give ourselves modifier type, we'll make that zone, and then we'll reduce the size so that it's in kind of this region. So that looks pretty cool. We'll make it so it's like, okay, cool, sweet. But let's say, for example, we make it like a big region because we want to give them like a pretty generous hitbox. Well, let's reduce the damage to -20. And of course, if we loop this, what we're going to see is that we'll deal damage to ourselves as well as our enemy. So what we would have to do in the past is we would have to reduce the size of this hitbox so that it either wouldn't hit us, and you'd have to sort of keep experimenting with it until it was like, okay, sweet, it finally deals damage, but you'd have to have like either a funky hitbox, or what you could do is you would have to use labels. Now what you would do is you would make it so that it doesn't hurt friend, but it does hurt foe, for example. And then you would go to your character and say, okay, cool, their label will be friend, and this guy over here will be foe. Okay, sweet. And this is what you would do in the past, friends. And now, of course, if I do it, it'll work fine. But I had to either adjust the position of this trigger zone, or, you know, do the whole label spiel. But now, friends, we don't have to do that. Okay, friends, and now if I add in the new health modifier with the new tweaks, we'll find out that it's actually a lot easier and there are more options. So I'm just going to do what we've done before. So -20 HP, I'm going to deal that damage in a zone, get ourselves a nice hitbox. If I look at that keyframe, I'll line it up with where our punch is. But of course, we'll know that with the old system, this trigger zone would definitely make it so that we take damage when we do the punch. So we'd need to adjust the trigger zone, or we would need to do the whole label spiel. But friends, with the new scoping feature, we don't have to do that anymore. So for example, let me play when scope is set to everywhere. It'll make it so that when you deal damage, you deal it to everything in the scene, whether it's yourself or your enemies, basically just anything. If I change it to here it makes it so that it'll only deal damage to things within your scope. In other words, it'll only deal damage to you. So when I do a punch, I'm only hurting myself. Finally, we've got the not here, and the way that not here works is it means it deals damage to everything except yourself, which is great because it means that you don't have to do, that's exactly what we want. We want it so that our punch hurts our enemies and not ourselves. Literally all you have to do is activate not here. No labels, no trigger zone messing around, none of that sort of business. All you have to do is make your scope not here. Think of it as everywhere is it attacks everywhere, everyone. Here is yourself, and not here is everything but yourself, or not self, for example. Okay, friends, but now you might ask me like, lad, bro, I don't get what's the difference between using like a label system, because it does the same thing, which is true, because you can hurt your enemies and not hurt yourself, you know what I mean? Hurt foes and not friends. But what's cool about this, friends, is that you can actually make enemies hurt each other, which you wouldn't be able to do before. So, for example, if I copy my enemy here, and I put them over here, and I swap him around, now what's going to happen, friends, is they can actually hurt each other. So for example, this is really cool because now you can like add effects into your games, like sort of traitor or charm effects, where your enemies start attacking each other. With a label system, there's no way that enemies would actually be able to hurt each other. You, like, if you were the friend label, you could hurt foes, and foes would be able to hurt friends, but they wouldn't actually be able to hurt each other. But now you could do things like, if, you know, your enemy has like a bow and arrow and they shoot an arrow, they can actually hurt each other. Or if there's like a big ogre brute, they can like hit their, you know, their little sort of friend with a club. Or you could turn them against each other and all these sorts of things. And this is all with the new scoping feature, because it kind of like adds a bit of a new layer of things. It's not just friends or foe, it's also the whole world, yourself, and everything but yourself, which is cool because it kind of makes every character their own entity and not just like a friend or a foe. Kind of think of it as almost giving them like each a unique like ID, for example. But yeah, so I really enjoy this feature because it creates a whole bunch of new opportunities for, you know, beating up your enemies and them beating each other up. So that is a pretty cool feature of the health modifier. Okay, friends, it's now time to look at the scoping features of the variable modifier. Friends, this is such a game changer, I can't even explain it, and in fact my brain isn't large enough to grasp the scope of it. But this allows us to take variables to a completely new level. So, if we look into my puppet over here, I have a variable which is jump height. So it equals to 1, and you can see that's being displayed above their heads. And I've just got a little jump loop going on here with a signal generator. So this variable is connected to my puppet's jump height, which is pretty cool. So I've just got my puppet here, their jump height, so on and so forth. So that's looking cool, friends. Now if I wanted to have a character with a different jump height, or make it so that, you know, when you reach a certain level, or, you know, if you're on like a bubble of air, you can increase your jump height, that would, well, this is what we would do in the past. We would copy our character and we'd be like, okay, cool, well, I'll need a different jump height variable for this character. So for example, we would have jump height for character A and jump height for character B, and you'd have to make unique variables. But no longer, friends. So I'm gonna make 3 characters here. And of course, by default, they will all be jumping away, doing their thing, living their best lives. Now, if I want to increase the jump heights and use a variable modifier, I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll go into my character. I will increase the jump height. So I'll go variable name, jump height. I will increase it continuously by a value of 0.01. And then I will play. And as we go, our characters are going to be able to jump higher and higher as time goes by, as we can see. But of course, the limitations of the variable modifier is that it affects that variable. And there's only one jump height variable that exists in the scene, and that is it. If you want characters to have different jump heights, you have to create jump height for character 1, jump height for character 2, jump height for character 3, and they'd have to have distinct names and distinct variable modifiers, and so on and so forth. What this new scoping feature does is it allows us to affect a specific variable, even if it shares the names with a bunch of other variables that have been copied around the map, and it will affect only that variable. Let me give you a demonstration. So now these characters are jumping at the same height, but this guy has the exact same variable as these chaps on either side. That variable that this one has is increasing. Now friends, this is ridiculous because you're increasing the value of one variable with the same name as these guys. It's got the exact same name. It's not a different variable, but it is being affected by only this character. Now, why this is a game changer, friends, is because it basically gives variables an ID that is specific to their character. So for example, there's nothing here that distinguishes these characters. They're all copies of each other, but they each kind of have their own sort of, they have their own sort of here in the scope. So for example, we've got our here version in the scope, and that affects like this variable. It basically gives it an ID to be like, okay, cool, this is the jump height of puppet number 2, without us having to actually change the value of, you know, all these sorts of things. It basically just gives it a unique ID. Now friends, this is an absolute game changer, because before, if you had like a character and you have like, for example, stats, you have like strength, intelligence, agility, and you wanted to have like, you know, a co-op thing, or you wanted to have another character, or multiple sort of things going on at once, you'd copy it and you'd have to rename every variable, add all sorts of business. But now you can just make it so that any effects that sort of increase it, so for example, if you level up, for example, it'll affect not sort of every example of that variable. So for example, if you make it everywhere, it will affect everyone, all sort of instances of that jump height variable. But now you can have like distinct versions of that jump height variable and make it so that it is only affecting this particular instance of it. You can also make it affected everything except this one. So for example, we can make it so that the other chaps are able to jump higher, but not yourself. So friends, basically just the potential of being able to have like a unique variable with the same name and without the requirement to like make new ones is crazy, because it means there's less copying, there's less renaming, there's less, you know, different variables and different modifiers and so on and so forth. This is a real game changer, friends, and I cannot even fathom all the things that you can do with this now that you can have unique variables with the same name. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go into every single piece of logic because this video is going to be like an hour long or even longer. But friends, please let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Let me know what your favorite feature is. Let me know if you're hyped for this update. I mean, the variable modifier, like my mind, it's still fragments. It's in pieces. But yes, friends, thank you so much for checking out this video. And yes, let's keep engaged. Let's keep the conversation going. Alrighty, friends, I shall catch you on the flip-flop. Peace out.